And while we're on the subject, good afternoon, everybody, but I'm going to deviate just here from what I originally planned since everybody's memory is so good. I'm going to ask for 551 in front of the full committee and Representative Brockway to go ahead and make his case in 20 seconds or so.
All right.
Since they just started.
Thank you.
Or less.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I don't see anybody that new arrived in the room, so I'll be happy to answer any additional questions. Just something to offer employees the ability to buy things if they choose. It's all completely voluntary.
What is the pleasure of the committee? Got a move to pass. Do I hear a second? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, like sign.
Thank you very much.
551 passes full committee. I'd like to bring your attention next to House Bill 370. When we met in sub, it had no opposition. Representative Fleming is the author of it. We had looked at perhaps changing some language in it and some questions that come up with a substitute. Because of some things that we're looking at, we decided to go ahead and go with the original or the substitute that was offered by Representative Fleming at that time. So I ask everyone to please pull the substitute to House Bill 370. 7556 ERS is the last digits of that, and I ask for Representative Fleming to present the bill. Wherever the mics are on. Yeah, that'll be great then. Thank you so much. Now
Witness is at the podium.
Hold on. Go ahead. Try it now.
Testing. There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the Chairman mentioned, we're working off LC 287556 of House Bill 370. It has 4 sections to it, and let me go through those as we did in subcommittee. The main part of the bill deals with a problem that most of you are aware of with our the Transparency Commission, Ethics Commission is what everybody refers to it as. During 10, 11, 12, and 13, as we all know, we required local officials, city and county officials, to file with the Ethics Commissions electronically. At the same time we did that, we said the clerk cannot help them do that as they had in the past. With literally thousands of people beginning to use that system, it overloaded the system basically, and there were significant problems with allowing a local official's ability to file their papers. Many of you also know that the Georgia Department of Audits did an audit of that situation and confirmed these significant problems. So what has resulted is a huge backlog of cases for the Ethics Commission from these local officials having attempted to file in many cases, and yet the system not showing that they filed, and it's created a huge backlogs of fines and whatnot. The main part of this bill addresses that issue. That is to say that what we're going to do is give a window of opportunity for any local official that files an affidavit saying that they filed or attempted to file and could not, that they can go before the Ethics Commission. That filing can take place for that appeal, so to speak, the rest of this year. Then next year in 16, the Ethics Commission can decide whether or not that their case is valid, that they attempted to do this, and any fines that they have could be relieved because of that. There are provisions in there that allows the Ethics Commission to go after anybody who that's found out that they intentionally did not file or did not attempt, but there is a rebuttable presumption that they tried, and once again, this is to address the significant backlog of problems that occurred at the Ethics Commission. That is Section 2 of the bill. Section 3 of the bill, I'm sorry. Section 2 of the bill deals with something many states in the union are dealing with, and that is what's been referred to as these independent expenditure groups, or sometimes called dark money groups that can attempt to run commercials, send mailers to influence campaigns, but they do not have to show who their contributors are, nor do they have to show who their expenditures are. What this section of the bill does is bring those groups under the same laws that you and I and everybody else are under, that we simply have to show who donated to us and when, and we have to show what expenditures we made. That is Section 2 of the bill. Section 3 of the bill, Section 4 of the bill also deals with another, what I call transparency issue. As all of you know right now, the caucuses in the House and Senate, the party caucuses, Democrat and Republican caucuses, can give unlimited donations to anybody in their caucuses or anybody running for legislative office that they so desire. You just have to send it to the party first, and then the party sends it back to the people who you want the money directed toward. All this does is eliminate that middleman. No longer will you have to send that money to the party. The House and Senate caucuses can spend that money directly on elections as they see fit. The last part of the bill is under Section 1. Now that we are giving this relief to all these local officials and this huge backlog of cases that were attempted to file during that trouble period, 10, 11, 12, and 13, once the appeals process runs out, if you haven't cleared up your fines with the Ethics Commission, you cannot run for office. We're given this grace period. That last section will apply to everybody, including us, though. You have to either clear up your fines with the Ethics Commission, or you have to be on appeal, or you cannot run for office. Mr. Chairman, that is basically what the bill does. Of course, we have to try to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for the good government transparency bill. Any questions from members of the committee? And we apologize, we got a little mic situation, but Representative Oliver.
I'll speak loudly. I'm looking at lines 61 to 72, and I'm trying to figure out if, I apologize, I wasn't at the subcommittee.
Sure.
What subcommittee did this come out of? I'm sorry.
Brockway's.
I'm trying to figure out if this, by elimination, authorizes darkness or what is left out of these definitions. And I'm reading these lines, trying to figure out if I do an ad that doesn't use the word vote, oppose, support, elect, fee, if I do an ad that says, please be careful to watch this looming issue of so-and-so, does that exempt you from?
Well, if you look down on line 66, there's a further definition there that catches any political activity. Otherwise refers, and I'll read beginning at line 66, otherwise refers to or depicts one or more clearly identified candidates, political parties or bodies, or constitutional amendments, referenda, or other questions submitted to voters in a manner that is susceptible to no reasonable interpretation other than to call for the nomination, the election, the defeat of such candidate in election, so forth and so on there. So it's a pretty broad definition to catch all activity during an election and make sure that that money is transparent as who raised it and who spent it.
I think you and I are going in exactly the same direction. I was just trying to figure out if there's no fair-minded way between line 61 and 72, or that I could run an ad and be secret about it in some political campaign.
I would bet that somebody out there may be smart enough to try to figure that out, and what you and I may be doing next year is coming in and trying to fill that hole once we see how they wiggle out of it. But the attempt here, based upon several states that have done this, is to capture all that money that's going in and out of political campaigns and elections and say you can spend it how you want to. There's no limit on free speech here. You just have to fall under the same requirements that you and I do, or any other registered PAC, is to show where it came from and where you spent it. Yes, ma'am. That description that you just gave to me sounds like a campaign committee that's still open from a past run at elected office. That committee is already covered and has to expose, or should I say file, who all their expenditures are and who all their donors are. So that's already covered under current law, as I heard your description.
They have an outstanding fee. Whenever they have an outstanding fee, they cannot run an ad against the referendum or whatever else.
I think the two things that you got going on there, Representative Oliver and I were talking about the portion which will make sure that everybody who spends money on an election has to show where it came from and where it went. You're referring to, I think, Section 1, which is the section that says in the future going forward, after we've cleared up all these problems at the Ethics Commission for the local officials, Once that appeals process runs out, then you need to have all your fines cleared up if you're going to run for office. It's modeled after and very similar the oath that you and I take when we run for office, when we swear that we have no outstanding taxes owed. This is going to be basically something similar to that says that I have no outstanding fines owed to the Ethics Commission, or at least I have them on appeal because I don't think they're fair.
Thank you. And the only one we have signed up to speak, and I really appreciate their patience on this. Thank you so much, William. William Clark understands we're in the lunch hour, and he's agreed to be conscientious of that during the lunch break, but welcome. And we apologize for the mic situation. It is what it is. So in the middle, okay, right here if you want. That'll work. Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
Mr.
afternoon.
Chairman, committee. I greatly appreciate it. Overall in the bill, we're pretty happy. And I'm sorry, I'm William Perry with Common Cause Georgia. We're pretty happy with the final language in terms of the fines and the forgiveness of fines or and that sort of thing. Even happy with using the stick to keep candidates out of running for office if they have significant fines that they hadn't paid. Generally, we're disappointed, though, that this is the issue that came out of the audit when the audit had such strong recommendations in terms of independent funding for the Ethics Commission as well as independent appointment, and would love to see the committee either consider those bills or at least hold a hearing. And then specific to the language, very disappointed in lifting the limits of the caucus. I understand the point of taking out the middleman, but sometimes the middleman provides a little more transparency and a check in the system. And it also has the strong appearance of incumbent protection, even more so allowing a caucus to take a stronger position on protecting incumbents even within the primary, because generally the parties do not participate in the primary election. So you're creating right now two beings that have a much broader power in spending money specifically on incumbent protection as opposed to general transparency and things like that. I appreciate the time, sir.
You did good. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your points. All right, at this time, I'm going to ask for what is the will of the committee? Got a motion to pass. Do I hear a second? Got a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Great work, Representative Fleming. And finally, we're not going to do what we do to you on the floor, though I just kind of like to a little bit. Representative Raffensperger, did I butcher that good enough? And House Bill 432, quickly.
House Bill 432 is a short bill. It's basically to take care of the issue of a de-annexation or annexation. If a property owner had a piece of property that straddled two cities, and for their purposes they would like to de-annex from one city and annex into another city, if there's nothing in this bill that requires the city to allow the de-annexation, so it'd be really a voluntary agreement between those two cities and the property owner. But if that did happen, you would end up with that moment in time during the de-annexation process where you had an unincorporated island, and that's currently precluded by state statute. So this is really to allow that to occur so that they can de-annex and then be annexed into the other city. I can give you the case in point if...
Let's see if we have any questions on this. There's a brief moment you might pick something up and then they just want to, both sides agree. Chairman Hamilton.
Because of my previous discussions on de-annexation over the years, so what is to prevent de-annexation from happening and then stop? Create
Well, because there has to be an agreement for the annexation and the de-annexation, so it's really a simultaneous.
I just want to make sure that there's not an unintended consequence where you have two parties that have agreed to it, one happens and then the other party decides not to do it, and we created that. So we can make sure that this does not allow that.
We'll ask legal counsel. It's just the split second that it happens and you got the agreement, boom. Thank you so much. Anybody want to pass this bill? I don't. That's a joke. I'll entertain a motion. A second? Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, like sign. Thank you all, and I appreciate you taking up your lunch with us today.